player and a Dutch superstar. In the top left side, another Molodoi Braton representing Archangel Gaming. It is MilkiCow.
And bottom right-hand side of the map, it is the monster uThermal for Team Liquid and
Alright, I'm not even gonna address it. First of all, I want to mention that uThermal started this game without his hands on the keyboard and mouse. You know, apparently it's getting chilly over here in the Netherlands. He was trying to warm up his hands a little bit. And then, second of all, we've seen a lot of player cams, but now we've also got a TV/furniture cam happening over in Russia, which I think is really cool as well. And I believe we see a little bit of MilkiCow on the right side, but I've seen better angling, Cats.
yeah, I've seen better angling, and also he started with a sigh. I couldn't help but to note that he took a deep breath there at the very start of the game. So he might just be a little bit nervous, you know, like maybe the camera is not his thing, Roddy.
Upset alert, by the way, on the B stream. Christiana getting a 2-1 victory over undefeated Lambo so far. Well, that's one that I didn't expect. Christiana was at the bottom of the group. He was 0-2. Lambo was on top of the group, 2-0. And this now means that Skillus is the only player that's undefeated in Group C. And that is pretty spectacular.
That is incredible. I look forward to some tweets here to follow, and we see that MilkiCow has tweeted. I almost said the CC on the wrong spot because uThermal was being annoying.
Yep. These guys, of course, MilkiCow at the moment is 0-2. uThermal is 1-1. I know a lot of people will think that if you're MilkiCow, it's like, oh, you know, just play your A game, nothing to lose, everything to win. There's no pressure, but there is pressure, and it's very silly. But a lot of these guys, as we have our first Reaper skirmish of the... Oh, can he get it? No, he cannot get it. But you know, Cats, and this is actually something that makes me really sad. A lot of these young players that qualify for a tournament like this for the first time, they are very paranoid and afraid of going 0-7 and 0-14. And obviously, like, that's not nice. Nobody wants to not win a single game. But, you know, they're afraid people will make fun of them, say mean things. But I think that stuff is so incredibly stupid, right? Because nobody that's ever good enough to qualify for a tournament like DreamHack Masters would make fun of anybody to go 0-7, 0-14. It's not a pretty result, but these kids, they should really not worry about it and focus on the achievement of qualifying in the first place, because the competition is really fierce in Europe, and they should be proud regardless of how they perform in the main event.
I completely agree, Roddy, and yeah, a bit more to your point, I think that, you know, it's kind of okay to have a season or two of warm-up, so to say. Like, you never see a player just break in and destroy their group out of nowhere, and maybe minus Ender, but Ender's been around for something like 10 years, but that was a surprising result. So, yeah, I'm completely with you. Now, uThermal is taking control of this game. We saw a good move from MilkiCow earlier, trying to hide the Reaper, for example, in the bushes, so he's actively thinking whatnot, but uThermal has definitely gotten the better of the smaller skirmishes so far.
Yeah, I'll save my little story for game 2. I'm sorry, guys. There were just a couple of other things to mention. We saw player cams and stuff. uThermal still continuing the aggression, and he has set up a little trap as well with a Widow Mine. You don't normally expect Widow Mines in this phase in the game. uThermal is really going for it. I don't think that if I'm MilkiCow, I wouldn't be expecting a mine here.
Yeah, very difficult, though. It is not too difficult to see, but even it's the place it's burrowed, it should be more difficult, right? Because that area of the map is particularly darker down that ramp.
Yeah. And the mine moved, but it was actually in vision of the command center. So I hope that the young Russian is aware of it. He absolutely is. He sends an SCV forward to tank the shot. Cyclone locks on the mine and gets the kill. So even though it looked a bit rough for MilkiCow, he actually kind of weathers the storm here, and he's only down a single SCV.
Yeah, very clean, quick reaction as well, considering that it's not a common move. That Widow Mine, I love the way that MilkiCow just dealt with it, and he's gonna kind of stabilize off of that. It is very even as far as worker counts, so MilkiCow by no means in a bad position here.
Yep. It's very important to just kind of try to play your A game if you're, you know, a heavy underdog. I think the one downside for MilkiCow in general entering a tournament like this is that he's a very aggressive player. I've played a lot of games against MilkiCow. He's got a lot of different aggressive openings as the Banshee gets caught. But in general, he likes to be out on the map. He likes to make moves. Losing the Banshee like that is very painful. But it is very difficult when you just want to attack. but attacking is hard. And in general, you want to be fast, you want to be better than your opponents if you are a very aggressive player. Because obviously turtling is a lot easier than making cool plays, right? But all of a sudden you're entering the big leagues, and this is not the random Terran you play on the ladder. You're playing uThermal, who will be aware of your aggression, who will probably know your reputation, and on top of that is just incredibly quick and has great game sense.
Exactly. That is one of the things that we need to highlight often, is that when these new players make it into a stage like this, it's kind of like they are more used to, say, playing ladder. There is the EPT Open Cups, which is good practice for tournaments, but they are not too used to preparing to, say, individual opponents much less of the caliber of uThermal. So there's got to be some adjusting there done.
Yep, but it's very hard, right? Because if all you ever do is be aggressive, find damage, kill SCVs left and right, that's all you really know. You're not comfortable all of a sudden just sitting at home and like turtling, because then uThermal will know how to play a game like that better, and then you just sit at home, you build up an army, eventually you get contained and you're forced to take a bad fight and you die. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, right? Whereas like there is no right or wrong way to do it. I think the best thing you can do is just stick to what you're good at. And even if you fall short, that's okay. Learn from it and see where those guys don't take the damage where your other opponents normally do. And maybe make some adjustments to your build order.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the tools that you walk with into the tournament, essentially, and no more than that. So you use those as best as you can. And then, in between seasons is where you look to improve, maybe become a little bit more solid on the macro department and all of those little add-ons. As it stands, MilkiCow is going to start falling a little bit behind, as uThermal already has his third in position and is well situated defensively.
It's not very common that we see a mech player being like up and running on 3 bases before the bio player is, and I hope that MilkiCow is aware of the fact that he's going up against mech. And uThermal also used a very heavy tank Viking opener against Sol last playday, but MilkiCow hasn't actually really seen a whole lot yet, Cats, and I really think if he knew that he was playing against mech, this orbital would have been on location a long time ago.
Yeah, his best tell was maybe the third gas at the natural, but aside from that, I mean, he also saw a Nibe with that gas, so it's very difficult to tell. And there is Marine sitting with this tank, so it kind of looks like bio. It's very difficult for MilkiCow, I think, to assert that it is mech. That said, he smells something because he is moving out on the map.
Yeah, it's a very early sensor tower as well. Normally you don't build sensor towers that early if you're just building marine tanks. So I think that MilkiCow has put 2 and 2 together. He's going to try to get his army in a good position. There are a lot of siege tanks, but hey, we know Ravens are in the mix, interference matrices, but you got to be quick because uThermal will always have more Vikings than you, so he will always have sky control.
Yeah, and he has an extra Raven as well, so he can more or less disable all of these tanks. MilkiCow has to be super careful. He has now confirmed that it is mech, but uThermal is already perfectly fine situated on 3 base. So from this point on, I think MilkiCow, I would think he wants to get rid of those rocks, just open up the map and continue to expand everywhere as fast as possible.
I actually feel a bit for him. He seems very indecisive. We see his army running from right to left, and he knows that he needs to make something happen against the build order that uThermal has gone for. He just doesn't know where, or he's wondering if it's too late at this point, and it kind of seems to be the case. Maybe he's gonna wait until 1-1 kicks in. Kind of needs to hope that uThermal makes a mistake, but how often does uThermal really make mistakes in TVT?
Yeah, not very often. I like what MilkiCow is doing in trying to at least know when that 4th is going up and trying to work to deny it with good positioning of his army. I would love for him to continue to open the map. Like I was saying, he did drop a 4th as he scouted uThermal going mech, so he's making adjustments, but was it too late already? Is he too far behind? Is uThermal too well established on this basis? I think it comes down to the 4th, right, Roddy?
Yep, I think that's the only thing that MilkiCow can really achieve at this point. Like, try to get 4 bases up and running way before uThermal. The problem is, this is a relatively small map, and the mech player is almost maxed out. We know uThermal is going to move out eventually, so no matter how you spin it, MilkiCow is going to force to take a fight against his army. And I'm not exactly sure how he's going to get a good fight. I guess he really needs to catch the mech army off guard, right? Just engage before everything is set up.
Yeah, 8 workers going down is not going to be a good start after they got a pretty good surround on the Hellion. Just noticing that the Hellion wasn't being looked at, so that was well done by MilkiCow, but we'll lose 8 workers before situating his 4th to those Hellions, and at the same time, uThermal is going to use the opportunity to land his 4th and move his army in position to defend it.
It's such a tiny move, right? This could have been a lot harder for uThermal if that army was still there, because then you're the one who's going to have to run into tanks, and we all know how difficult that is in TVT. But just because of those Hellions, he completely opened up the top side of his own map, and now he's just casually planting that fort base on location as well. MilkiCow has a hit squad ready to potentially strike, I would almost say, the main, right? You know what the best move here would be? Fly over the third straight into the main.
That's exactly what he seems like he might do. Though seeing these tanks, he might just drop him on top instead, and that's exactly what he's gonna do. He's gonna get a good clear on these tanks to start off. uThermal has a very slow army, but it was already unsieged and ready to reposition, as he is gonna be able to react just in time to save his third.
A couple of Vikings by uThermal were actually kind of left by themselves on the top side of this skirmish, so MilkiCow picked off a Viking or two there as well. Not a bad start for the young Russian, clearly to say, or it's very obvious to say that he still needs a bit more, because uThermal will be able to replace those tanks real quick with the amount of factories that are up and running for the Dutchman. But it wasn't bad.
Yeah, not too bad at all. There is, however, Liberators coming up, and this is where it gets really scary. uThermal has identified that MilkiCow is not even contesting the air superiority. He's so far ahead on that regard that now if he can get Liberators, he can push tanks and dislodge them from positions very, very easily. MilkiCow, I think, is doing a good job now breaking the rocks. I think that this is kind of important if you're the bio player against the mech.
Yeah, what does make me a bit sad is that he lost both Ravens in the previous exchange, and he really didn't get anything out of them, right? Well, normally there's always that one moment where, you know, Bio and Ravens can make some magic happen against mech-oriented build orders. MilkiCow's picking up everything in Medevacs right now. Maybe goes for a Doom drop into the main. There are a couple turrets, but you know what's really funny is that you guess you don't want to fly into sensor tower range, but if he would just go a little bit towards the top right now, yeah, there is definitely a gap above the turrets, but I don't think below.
Yeah, there is.
Below the turrets? No, he's gonna lose it.
He's doing. Oh no, not the turrets, but the sensor tower. So still, he's gonna fly into two turrets, and he's gonna. Oh, there's actually 4 turrets. He's gonna lose a medevac, but not before unloading most of his army. And I still like this move quite a bit. He's on top of the production. However, on the other side, uThermal is sieging MilkiCow's third base, and MilkiCow might be dislodged here by those Liberators, like we were talking about.
Yep, the Liberators make this even more complicated. But if I was MilkiCow, I'd be like, eventually, no, the Vikings are on move command. MilkiCow's gonna end up losing the 5 or 6 Vikings that he had. I mean, I don't think he was ever gonna win an air battle anyway, but it doesn't help. Just evacuate this base, right? It's an orbital, it can fly.
Yeah, most definitely. And he has enough orbital commands that he just needs to go to the bottom. I think a lot of these tanks are gonna be disabled and taken down from uThermal. But uThermal doesn't really have much in the way of buffer. Those Hellbats have to stay alive for him, because otherwise MilkiCow might be able to swarm if uThermal and sieges all things at once. MilkiCow still doing work very methodically and very well, avoiding those missile turrets on the other side, continuing to do more damage to uThermal, who has lost most of his production and has 5 factories in the way.
Yeah, but what he does still have is a very scary tank army. But in a weird way, uThermal is starting to get a little bit all in. He is rebuilding the production that he's lost. That one Liberator is being so annoying. If only MilkiCow didn't lose those 6 Vikings, he could have just suicided those 6 Vikings on the single Liberator, and this defense would have been a lot easier so far.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you said, there is just the one Liberator to get rid of right now. I think if you're MilkiCow, just give up ground, set up for a huge surround, and next time uThermal and sieges, just collapse onto it. Pull SCVs, I don't care. You've done so much damage.
Yep, yeah, obviously it needs to be sooner than later, and it needs to come in from multiple angles, because that is still a lot of tanks. 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 tanks on this attack still for uThermal. But hey, that bio army on the other side of the map has done a tremendous job. MilkiCow, can we eventually flank this army, or can we at least kill that single Liberator that's been so damn annoying?
It really has been. And look at those rocks being so annoying as well, right? If MilkiCow wanted to come from every angle, those rocks would provide some chokehold for uThermal, which is why he is hogging this position. He already has taken down now the natural of MilkiCow, so it's getting a little bit scarier and scarier. Like you said, I think it's on a little bit of a ticking time. You don't want to let uThermal siege on top of your production.
Okay, that Liberator is still there. A little bit of bio is going to get dropped. I don't think that was the play. Only got a single tank there, I believe, for 2 medevacs full of bio units. These tanks are getting closer and closer. MilkiCow should really bring his units back home and now eventually collapse on this army. I think he's got enough bio to clean it up, cats.
I absolutely think so too, but it is a more difficult position now because anything coming from the main is gonna go through such a narrow choke that it's all gonna get evaporated so fast by these tanks. I would have rather him collapse while he still had his natural, and uThermal was in this position where you could actually come from almost 360.
Yeah, but obviously uThermal's army is forced to move very carefully, and MilkiCow can be a little bit more YOLO with his buy units on the other side of the map, so he's gonna try to cancel a couple of these command centers.
All right, those are pretty good trades. Takes down 2 tanks. Maybe could have taken 1 more. A little bit risky of a maneuver given the amount of air, but hey, he finds the space as well as another base on the side of uThermal. It is essential that MilkiCow continues to deny this mining bases on the other side or breaks this contain. He's kind of doing half and half. I'm not sure. I'm a huge fan. This medevac is trying a little bit too hard there.
The biggest problem for the young Russian is that he now lost all his medevacs. That means there is no more healing on these bio units. Every stim is going to hurt so damn much. And yes, he's still dealing damage on the other side of the map, but we have reached the point where uThermal is actually rebuilding. Here we go. Another final stim. All the Vikings let loses Iron Viking. No, he's still the Raven.
Yeah, but this is perfect. I mean, there's only 2 tanks remaining. That was the scary part of the attack, and now MilkiCow is gonna pull back with the rest of his bio army. The Vikings are not gonna want to fight this, and in fact, some of them are gonna run over the Marines, though a quick readjustment from uThermal. And with this cleanup, I think MilkiCow will be in a pretty good position, but he needs to do this cleanup fast and move back out on the map right away.
Yeah, uThermal still, I think, probably has a couple of units queued up as well. Yeah, there are tanks queued up because he was sitting on a lot of money. And sure, uThermal lost quite a bit of money trying to rebuild factories, trying to rebuild command centers, but those bases have been up and running for a while. And once again, there are no medeffects. Okay, now he actually has 2 more, so he's going to drop on the last 2 tanks. Come on, MilkiCow, it's time to clean this up. And he finally does. It's been a 17-minute game already. This push lasted for like 9 minutes, guys.
Yeah, a lot longer than I think it had any right to last. I think this game was well in favor of MilkiCow. Right now, it's anyone's game, I would say. Yes, uThermal has more workers, and yes, he's well defended, but he also doesn't have that much real estate. If MilkiCow could have found that PF on the right corner, maybe that would have been enough to just keep a huge advantage.
It's going to be very hard right now for this bio army to get anything done. Maybe if you come in all the way to the top side, just stim kill the planetary. But running into the tanks, into the liberators, that is not an option. MilkiCow is going to load up 2 units. That one liberator has been alive for too damn long. Is getting more kills now as well. And MilkiCow just lacks end tier.
Yeah, that's part of it. Though now he is trying to catch up on that regard. Actually, he has a couple Vikings, but that's about it. Now the Hellions are gonna come in and ravage this new mineral line from MilkiCow. They're all orbital commands. Oh no, that's actually a PF. That skin always gets me, man.
Yeah, it gets me as well. It is a PF, but obviously uThermal being a very smart Terran player, putting it out of range of the planetary fortress, but still in range of the mineral line. And that means he can kill a few more SCVs. And all of a sudden, the young Russian just doesn't have much left, right? He's truly running out of steam. 92 supply. I once again don't see a lot of medevacs. A single medevac is what it is. He's been a bit too YOLO, too reckless with the medevacs and the Vikings this game.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that contain and this base going up. I think if he's old enough, certainly, to stream now.
Absolutely, and he definitely streamed again down the line. And I completely forgot about this happening many years ago until somebody recently like, yeah, Roddy, you got him banned once. I was like, what? No, I didn't. I was like, oh my God.
Forgot.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that young kid I hosted back then would eventually become MilkiCow. I just, a long time has gone by since he actually became proper good. So, yeah, cute story.
It's so funny.
He forgave me though, cats.
I would hope so. All right, well, it looks like we have more or less a mirror here. Poor MilkiCow, that story, man.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
I know. It's particularly sad because I was obviously just trying to give his stream some publicity, but yeah, then I got him banned.
Yeah, exactly.
Been many years ever since, and this kid has just continued to get better and better. This is the very first time he has qualified for a proper Premier event. His qualifying run was honestly a roller coaster. He had some really fun games against other Russian players like King Cobra and Pugar. And it's really cool to see new faces breaking into the top 32 of Europe.
Yes, indeed. And those 2 that you mentioned in particular, they have been kind of the new face at some point and recently. So there's a lot of up-and-comers in Russia, I think. I don't get tired of saying that. It's really cool, the amount of players that the region is producing.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I honestly think we have to give a big shout out to Alex007. I really feel like he has carried that entire region and he has just made a lot of Russian and Ukrainian players excited over StarCraft 2 with all his YouTube videos. And it's really cool to see that the talent is breaking through because it was really sad when it was basically just Braddock. And I was like, what? Like, you know, in Warcraft 3, we always had top Russian players. And I was like, where is the Russian scene? Well, a year and a half later, we've got Skillers, we've got Vanya. Obviously, you still have some of the old school players like Rio and stuff. It's just really cool to see.
Absolutely. So we have a more normal opener here with uThermal being the first person to move out. Actually, both players moving out with similar armies, though uThermal's army is a little bit more technical, I want to say. Only a tank on the side of MilkiCow. They're gonna not spot each other, actually, Roddy. And I think the medevac of uThermal has a little bit more potential, right? Unless the Widowman gets dodged.
Yeah, I think uThermal is going to kill a lot of workers, but maybe if MilkiCow can just take out that Cyclone, he could potentially win the game. MilkiCow should have gone for the main, though. I think going for the natural is not the right play, because MilkiCow is going to lose a lot at home. I mean, both players are going to kill a lot of workers. Cats, it's going to be a fiesta. Widowmine.
Okay, not the worst mine shot, actually, and all of the army of uThermal is kind of trapped inside, so he'll be forced to pick up. Now the Cyclone shows up and is gonna have something to say about this units on the other side. It is MilkiCow who is potentially gonna lose his medevac, but good micro to save it. Will end up picking up, and it's kind of a wash with uThermal losing 6 SCVs.
But MilkiCow still has some potential. I mean, obviously MilkiCow lost like 2 SCVs more. But the entire medevac is still alive with MilkiCow. The tank is still alive. So I honestly think I would trade that little army for 2 additional SCVs.
Yeah, most definitely. I think so as well. Though uThermal did transition. Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
A little too ambitious there, Kaz. He was like, all right, my units are still alive. Let's get some more damage. But oh no, now the Cyclone shows up as well. That gets the lock-on the medevac. And...
Yeah, it's a little bit rough. He just didn't see the tank sieged up for uThermal, and obviously the tank has an incredible range, so seeing as his army was so low, I think I would go for the same decision that MilkiCow went for, but doesn't end up panning out.
These are the kind of games, though, where I do feel that MilkiCow thrives. Now, I don't know if he's really like at the level of uThermal that he can really duke it out like this in a good old slobber knocker, I guess. But... These are the games where he thrives in. This is his element. He loves like just killing stuff, losing stuff at home. It doesn't really matter, you know, create chaos. And in all honesty, he kind of held his own. It's not like he got absolutely dumpstered here and he lost 12 more SCVs, right, than the Dutchman.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was hanging in the first game as well. I think that if MilkiCow looks at that game, he would work on multiple things and would win it more often than not. So he's got to be feeling a little bit more confident, at least, than at the very start where we saw him sighing and whatnot. So let's see what happens here. 2 Ravens going over to the side of uThermal, but a Marine will spot them.
Yeah, even a small move, like we just saw that one Raven dropping the auto turret, right? No. If that auto turret is dropped on the right side of the tank rather than in front of the tank, Russian is getting a little eager here. Then I don't think that the tank that uThermal had in the main base covers. And then all of a sudden, there's a good chance that auto turret picks off the tank in the natural, and you can build upon that, right? It's just tiny things that he needs to think about a little more and he needs to work on. But he's definitely holding his own here against an absolute veteran in the European scene and somebody that I think we're all expecting to make the playoffs, which is uThermal.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the best Terrans, like you said. I think up there with, you know, maybe just right below Clement Hero Marine, though he can give them a run for their money and beat them oftentimes. So definitely one of the very best.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, we know that Mark has been suffering from an elbow injury for some time. And I think he's not playing as much StarCraft as he would like to. So this may not be a 100% uThermal, but even a uThermal at 90%. It's just one hell of a player.
Yes, indeed. Now, he has just started his 1-1 upgrades. MilkiCow, if he starts right away, is going to only fall a little bit behind on that regard. It is MilkiCow who is going for a move out potentially onto uThermal's third, which is a little bit sooner yet again, but not by much.
uThermal does a great job in sending a couple of Marines around the map that will give him some vision. Now, I gotta say, there is a chance that he actually doesn't see this army. The Marines don't spot it yet. I'm looking at uThermal's vision. He has no idea that this army is about to show up. That's crazy.
Yeah, he will scan it, however, for confirmation. This is the air superiority that he had last game as well, but with the Marines on the bottom, they actually pick up one of the Ravens. There are no Vikings more or less left over for MilkiCow, however, so this siege is perhaps on a timed life, or at least we'll have to heavily rely on scans.
Yeah, but it's not that bad though. One tank is in range of the mineral line, at least of the tanks of the mineral line that was mining gas. Scan goes down as well, and now uThermal will take care of the most dangerous tank. And the Vikings could potentially land here. That is exactly what uThermal was going to do.
Yeah.
He loses all of them rather quickly though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure that I like that move by uThermal as much. I feel like he had already cleaned this position out more or less, and the Viking land was a little bit unnecessary given that there were still Marines to do DPS on the side of MilkiCow, maybe ignoring those. So not the worst thing for MilkiCow, right, Roddy? It could have been worse, certainly.
Not at all. I'd say that was a successful attack, Cats. I mean, I got a couple of SCVs, picked off the 2 Ravens as well, even got 7 Vikings while only losing 3 Vikings on his own side. uThermal scans, spots the 4th command center going up already for the young Russian. We've got a game on our hands, Cats, and I'm getting really excited because, you know, I feel like these underdogs, they often need just a little bit of momentum to truly show us what they're made of. I think MilkiCow has found that momentum.
Yeah, now let's see if he can keep it, because that's a hard part as well, right? Like, he's been dealing with the anxiety of playing on the stage. Now he's gonna have to deal with the jitters of coming close to winning, or like when you get in that winning position and you start just feeling the shakes a little bit. So let's see how he handles that, if he gets it at all. But he is over 10 workers ahead, so that's a nice start.
Yep. There is an armory on both sides. Mapu is showing us that both players a little bit slow on starting those 2-2 upgrades. I'm with you, Mapu. I see it too.
Yeah. And it's actually MilkiCow that's going to start him first, even though he started the 1-1 a little bit later. So that's nice for him as well, but uThermal won't be too far behind either.
Indeed. I think uThermal can only really chill right now. Just kind of try to play a defensive game and hope that MilkiCow gets carried away and does something that he shouldn't do, where he just gets a little too aggressive and loses a few more units than he should. But at this point, the young Russian really is in the driver's seat. He's throwing up a couple of sensor towers as well. He will know that he is safe. He's sending 1 Marine forward to see where exactly uThermal is at.
Yeah, uThermal has done a good job in spite of getting reset on the Viking count to continue to get that air superiority throughout the series, I would say, consistently. So that is something that he clearly very much values. On the side of MilkiCow, he's been keeping up on every other regard pretty well. And this time around, actually, dropping an extra 2 starports might be able to eventually catch up and take over that advantage from uThermal.
This kid is so wild. He just picks up 3 medevacs full of Marines. He's like, can I drop it on these tanks? It's like, well, maybe actually it could have worked, but there were 6 or 7 Marines there of uThermal, and that's when MilkiCow decided to change his move. I do like the feints though, like just picking up in range of a sensor tower, sending it forward. It does really stress your opponent out.
It surely does. And you don't know how many Marines there are there. Like, he probably sees the Marines and thinks that there are more back there, but I'm with you. I think that could have worked. Now uThermal trying to do the same thing and just apply some pressure and prevent MilkiCow from dropping a 5th expansion under the coverage of that Milky Tower. I was going to say, he is going for it indeed. He will drop on top of these tanks. I'm not sure that it's going to work. 2 already went down, and some Marines onto the mineral line. It's not the worst trade in the world, but it is certainly not pretty.
No, it wasn't too bad, right? I feel like if he would have just gone the first time, this would have gone way better, because the Vikings were way further out of position that time than they were this time around. But it's all good. Freed up some supplies, gonna make Ravens, so we're gonna get some good old bio-Viking Ravens on the side of the young Russian. And I'm actually a bit surprised to see that. I know that they are good. Even in the late game, he's getting even the Corvid reactor upgrades and stuff for the Ravens, so we'll see how he handles them.
Yeah, that is pretty cool indeed. It's going to be really helpful to break those tank contains and positioning. So it really speaks to the aggression that you were talking about this kid likes putting on. But he's going to have to deal with a lot of Vikings as well. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's going for, just Ravens as opposed to trying to retain the air control a little bit more.
How many tanks do we have? It's 13 tanks on the side of uThermal against the 9 tanks of MilkiCow.
Yeah, uThermal is going to be going for his first move out of the game. He has been deflecting most punches, but not without harm. MilkiCow might just be able to meet him here on the map. It's imperative that, yeah, exactly. It comes down to the siege here. Who's gonna siege first? And it's gonna be both more or less at the same time, but uThermal sieges with more tanks. And with the Vikings on the air, he's gonna have a little bit of an easier time engaging. Big stim, unnecessary on the side of MilkiCow.
Yeah, I actually think uThermal's siege slightly quicker, but MilkiCow dropped Interference Matrix on the 2 tanks that were in range, or at least one of the tanks that was in range. So actually managed to save all of his own tanks. It kind of works in uThermal's favor that he's got 10 workers less. That obviously means 10 more army supply, but this is quite a game. I'm really loving what I see out of both players.
Yeah, I would be so nervous if I was MilkiCow for the Ravens, though, because these Vikings are such a threat, and uThermal has done very good to patrol those Vikings in dead airspace where, you know, the Marines are not gonna have a say on the matter. MilkiCow chasing 12 Vikings with 3, but as they retreat, he's just gonna get this tank for his travels.
Russians are not afraid. You know, earlier I had a little chat with my boy Goblin. I was like, I think there's a chance he might play Oracle. He's like, why would he play Oracle? He knows that I can play Stargate. I was like, Russians are not afraid, mate. It's my best. Oh, these armies getting really close to each other. They're so awfully close. Run, MilkiCow for the hills. Don't turn around. You're too late to take that fight. I mean, there is a chance that he can maybe force a fight with 3-3 bio upgrades against 2-2. Then imagine if he lands an anti-armor missile as well. uThermal has to be a bit careful here.
For me, it's about the tanks, but these are sacrificial Ravens, more or less. MilkiCow, I think, doesn't want to siege here, but rather just move into the army of uThermal, disable all of those tanks, and take a fight. I think that's the way that he has to do this, but the Ravens have to basically flank and avoid the vision of these Vikings. That seems to be maybe what he's going for, or is he just going for a trade, a base trade here? Well, not a complete one, but...
He's sort of counterattacking. He's like, if you kill one of my planetaries, I'm gonna kill one of yours. I don't see many medevacs here, so he's gonna lose a handful of Marines to this PF. Now uThermal is actually going for another base, but he's sieging up in range of a couple of the tanks of MilkiCow, so uThermal ate a couple big shots there. But does obviously take out the base at 6 o'clock as well, which means that right now they're kind of even on bases, because MilkiCow, I want to say, does have 3 o'clock, but he doesn't. He's just building it, so... uThermal technically mining of 1 more at this point.
Yeah, overall, I think this was a pretty good trade for uThermal. Manages to find a space where MilkiCow doesn't really have enough tanks in position, so barely takes that 1 pot shot, and 30 workers is the loss for MilkiCow. He really needs to quash this army. He might just be able to. There's the Hunter Seeker missile that you were talking about, or the anti-armor missile, but not disengaging, actually.
This was... I really feel this was the moment for MilkiCow to just fight. He's got 78 Marines out on the map. uThermal only has 40 Marines. And this army is stuck, right? It's strapped. Terran doesn't have recall. I would have loved to see the Russian just force the issue there and really take a fight.
Same. I think he wasn't in such a good position, and if this army retreats for uThermal, then it's not good for MilkiCow, because he's supposed to kill this army without losing too much, given the amount of army that he has on his side of the map.
I mean, he's got a lot of Ravens here, so these Marines are going to stim forward as well. 1 or 2 tanks are going to get picked off, but there is that army of uThermal that probably should have gone down a while ago. Instead, it will return home and actually kind of save the day, pick off all those units of MilkiCow and keep the base alive as well.
Yeah, it feels really bad, right? Because like you said, that army should be dead, and instead it is the one that's getting the good trades, which is the opposite of what should have happened. So kind of like double bad for MilkiCow. But now he's gonna come and siege this big planetary fortress with his entire army, and this is a decent position.
Yeah, MilkiCow had a lot of money in the bank, so he does take out one of the bases of uThermal. But I'm definitely with you. Like, that army just got saved the day while that army should have been dead. Anti-army missile lands again. If I was the Russian, I would just chill for a second, because I feel like there's too much chaos on the map right now, right? Like, he's in a very playable position still. He's maxed out. He's got that base running at 3 o'clock at this point. There is no need to run into tanks that are sieged up already.
Yeah, absolutely. This is much more difficult for MilkiCow. Very nice focus fire onto one of those Ravens with energy as well. But unfortunately for him, he's going to lose all this contingents of tanks. At the same time, he's moving most of his army on the south side of the map, looking for another planetary fortress. So this is kind of the strategy that MilkiCow is going for. Stay aggressive, stay out on the map, and do whatever you can. These Ravens are amassing energy, but remember, the Vikings are well in favor of uThermal.
Yeah, great army movement by MilkiCow, but he did obviously lose those 4 tanks, as uThermal did a fantastic job in just dropping a couple of interference matrices and picking off 4 or 5 tanks that were left for zoning. while basically taking 0 casualties on his side. So both players still maxed out. The Russian has 14, 15 more SCVs though, and that is something to keep in mind. That means that his army will always be smaller.
Yes, indeed. That is a good point. But also that he has a little bit more room to wiggle. So if he can stay out on the map and take good trades, then he can always remake army a little bit easier back at home. So, you know, you just don't want to get pinned back, because if uThermal pins you back and he has the air superiority, say he gets another Liberator or two, that will get scary. No! A couple of the Ravens go down.
It's not just the air superiority, right? It's also tank count. uThermal has 18 tanks. MilkiCow only has 8 tanks. But this obviously does mean that there are way more Marines. And if Marines get a great fight, Marines can really make all the difference. But I almost feel that was a bait, as the tanks of uThermal got a couple of great shots up there.
Yeah, but at the same time, reducing a few of those Ravens and Vikings, not the worst thing for MilkiCow, just for Marines. Maybe he can upgrade his army in terms of complexity a little bit. A little bit of a drop. Actually gonna be able to clear this 4 tanks for free. So really nice move there.
Yep, and at the same time, MilkiCow was also dropping the 3rd, as Mapu was showing us as well. So, I mean, I really love the pace. This is why I'm kind of a fan of this kid. I just feel like he's a fun player to watch. He's... You know, all of his games are incredibly action-packed, and he plays at a high pace. And of course, he gets carried away sometimes. He still has a lot to learn, but I think he's giving us a very entertaining game here as he stims forward one more time. And he's going to take out this planetary fortress of uThermal as well. I do feel like he's a bit low on the medevacs at this point, right? Like, yeah, he's got 2 medevacs. He needs more medevacs.
Yes, indeed. At the same time, this is huge for uThermal, who's going to find 2 orbital command on the other side. He really needed this. Let's see if MilkiCow can finally punish this army, though uThermal looking for a sandwich.
Yep. I mean, like, who's sandwiching who here? I'm actually not sure. I feel like they're both trying to put moves on each other. uThermal does spot 1 tank and kind of wants to go for it. Oh, MilkiCow cannot afford these stim scats. He's got 2 medevacs. Okay, he's got 2 more showing up at this point. He feels like he really wants to keep this base safe, but the medevacs are misrallied. And he just rallies 2 medevacs into the army of uThermal, and he needs those so badly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a difficult call, but at the same time, I really don't like that MilkiCow is getting pinned back here, because the army of uThermal is so much more technical, and it can really dislodge positions a lot easier than MilkiCow has the ability to. Almost picking off a Raven. They're nice focus fire, but it's not going to be enough. MilkiCow is going to go for it, but there are so many tanks on the side of uThermal, and everything for MilkiCow is going to melt, Roddy.
Yep, that wasn't the engagement MilkiCow was looking for, but beautiful tank positioning by uThermal, also realizing when was the right move to actually bring everything, because he was sharking around with that bio army for a while, brought a few reinforcements, but this was the moment uThermal said, all right, I'm gonna bring it all, because I have the feeling I can take a game-deciding fight, as Hero Marine would say, and I think that truly was the game-deciding fight.
Yeah, and I think it was his best bet as well. He is 20 workers behind, so his army's not going to get much stronger. And, you know, he recognizes that he has the more technical army, like I've been saying. And with that, I think he's going to be able to continue to push him forward. I would not like to see uThermal slow down, however. But I guess he can kind of do whatever at this point. He's 50 supply ahead.
Yep, he's gonna take out the base at 6 or 7 o'clock, and there's not much that MilkiCow can really do to save it. MilkiCow's gonna repair it, which I'm very surprised by, because now he's just burning resources. Like, I don't see how he ever saves his base, so you may as well just let it die, right?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. MilkiCow is doing whatever he can. That is not a base that can land, and it's gonna land it next to it, but it's morphing into a PF. So if they both morph into PFs, PF with all the SCVs. Will surely win.
The other PF at the bottom did go down, and the 19 SCVs went down in the process as well. MilkiCow is now dropping tanks on top of tanks, and he gets one of them. That's kind of cool. Hey, isn't that's where you make a rap song, right? Like dropping tanks on tanks.
Tanks on tanks, yeah. There's gotta be something there.
Exactly. Come on, Tempo. Just gave you a great idea, mate. Alright, there's a couple of Ravens, but I really don't think that this army of uThermal can be defeated.
Yeah, I mean, this is as good as it gets as far as the anti-armor missile, but it's just not gonna be enough to encourage MilkiCow to take a plus EV engagement. It is just so very difficult. uThermal's gonna push into this base, and it is just about the last mining base for MilkiCow.
Yep, Unit's lost resource stab is 11k in favor of the Dutchman. uThermal will get the 2-0 that he was looking for. But damn, did he have to work for it?